I got my degree in filmmaking, and then I became a fashion designer for 13 years for my own brand. And I've always been fascinated by the two elements. The directors that had the strongest impact on me were Rainer Werner Fassbender, John Cassavetes, Visconti, Pasolini. It was just interesting to see how items of clothing can work in a film that make it really memorable, whether it's wearing a thin red thread of a necklace, it says something about the character. I think one of the reasons that I got into putting together a fashion film festival, which was in 2006, in August, my first one, called You Wear It Well, was that one of my first jobs when I moved to Paris 22 years ago was as a costume designer for a film for Ahmet Skatai. And I realized how directors are really in fear of fashion. Even though the director wore nothing but Yohji Yamamoto, yet he was totally scared because I was a designer. And it's crazy because there's this idea that the fashion is going to draw too much attention to itself. Instead of, the fact of the matter is the fashion supports the character. And it's a beautiful exchange between the two. My hot chocolate is coming. They make the best hot chocolate. You can take a film, it's not like the best film ever, but an actress that was like, for me, everything from like growing up, like 8, 9 years old, was Anna Magnani. And she was playing with Marlon Brando in The Fugitive Kind. There was this red snake jacket in it, even though it was a black and white film. And the film was around, this one item of clothing. Or if you go like Belle de Jour, where there's a black leather trench coat and all the clothes are really important, how she's like this very bourgeois woman and then she's a prostitute. For me, the first fashion film was Who Are You, Polly Magoo by William Klein. That film's iconic. It's a total spoof on fashion. Fashion is something that's sometimes takes itself too seriously, and a little humor or irony goes a long way. I noticed over the years, the films that get the best reaction are the ones that take a little, deuxième degree, like you saw Hors d'oeuvre last night. It's really funny with the girl hanging from the ceiling. Headpieces for Peace, the one that won this year. It's great because it's a film, it's a fashion film, but it acts on a political, religious, and human level as well.
I will be right back.
What's interesting about the genre of fashion film is there are no rules. And the only difference between a fashion film and a film, like a short film or a feature film, is that fashion has to be the protagonist. For example, if a director makes a great film, there's a great story, it's great sound design, great art direction, great acting, but the fashion is crap, you can't call it a fashion film. But if the fashion's interesting, you can. It can be an animation, it can be a documentary, it can be a fiction, it can just be, images as an art film. and they all fit under the genre of fashion film. Way before 2005, I had the idea to put together a fashion film festival, but there really wasn't enough material out there. There were always runway shows and things like that, but not really fashion films. And Mark Ely from Ely Kishimoto, the brand, has commissioned me to do a road movie. And it was to launch his menswear collection. And I asked my collaborator from LA at the time, I sent him the film. He said, oh, you want to screen it in LA? I thought, I don't want to just show my film, let's do a festival. But to call it a festival was a bit of an exaggeration. And the first time it became a real festival was in September 2008. In 2013, it'll be the Asphalt 6, which will be the 5th year at Centre Pompidou. So I'm very happy.
I think fashion film is the future, you know. I mean, and you can tell by the way the festival has evolved in the last 5-6 years. You know, at the beginning there weren't any films. It was hard to choose good films, and now, like year by year, we get a lot more, you know, amazing films. And it's not just from students; it's from big brands that's recognizing the importance of fashion film.
Yeah, my friendship with Diane, you know, has become a great collaboration. You know, she, in many, in many ways, you know, as kind of as Diane's, you know, support of me as an artist and as a filmmaker, and constantly, you know, pushing me. You know, fashion film, yes, the Shade of York Fashion Film Festival, but it's so much more. I mean, sometimes some of the films that I make that Diane puts in the Fashion Film Festival, she sees the connection to fashion, and I don't even. I was like, why are you putting that? You know, it's that kind of, in a way, a very global way of thinking about a very specific, you know, just the kind of connections that she's making for people, you know, between the disciplines.
I think it's really important how one media contaminates another. Whether it's fashion, art, music, dance, they all add something to what could be a fashion film. It's a different perspective. You'd have one perspective. It's like if you're a fashion designer. If you come from a background of architecture, you have a different point of view than someone who's just studied fashion all their lives. I think it's far more interesting to come from another place and have something, another layer to give to a fashion film.
I think that, you know, what's required of film is about storytelling. I think that someone like Diane that's exactly what she's pushing.
The problem with a lot of fashion films now, because the genre is growing and every photographer's agent is forcing their photographers to get a video camera and make a film. And they're different. It's much different to be working with a frozen image than it is to be working with a moving image. You have some of the same concerns, but many new concerns. You know, it's in movement. It needs to have a scenario. I think if it's over 3 minutes, it really needs a scenario. Feeling it can get really boring. There's nothing worse than looking at the timeline to see when something's gonna end. You know, it's gotta take you in the first 30 seconds of the film. And it should take you somewhere you haven't been. And that, for me, is not a fashion shoot in movement. Just because a model is moving in front of the camera does not make a fashion film. And the sound is very important. Sound makes a picture.
I'm very pragmatic with fashion, and if you can really see the clothing, it's good. I think really interesting designs often have, details on the back and things like that. So with the fashion film, what's great is that we can see the full piece in a three-dimensional way. So, I mean, Diane discovered the importance of it sort of for the rest of us before. And nowadays, whenever there's a photo shoot ever, for a fashion magazine, they're always either hiring someone to do a fashion film with it, or they're doing, the photographer's doing it as well.
More and more people is going to get into it, especially with the internet, and that's the way how people's going to interact, with brands, seeing things online. So it's going to become a much more important medium for brands and for creative minds. Yeah.
I think that things like YouTube, the internet, have changed the whole way we look at film. Fashion used to be something that was very exclusive for very few people. The reason why fashion brands are using the medium of film is because it's working. It's spreading their brand identity. And it's more than, a fashion show, which is 7 to 12 minutes, and they're going for bigger and bigger directors. Those guys aren't cheap, If David Lynch is shooting your brand, or Roman Polanski, if you're going to spend that much money, there's got to be some kind of a result that you're getting. The museum was designed by Jean Nouvel, the architect. I come here regularly. Right now there's this exhibition on hair. It's the last few days. Obviously that's something that interests me. It's just a really nice place to come. And I'm always here. And I can walk here. I think I take inspiration from everything. If I had to say what inspires me the most, it's the cinema and music. She's so beautiful. I loved her in Night of the Iguana, with Barefoot Contessa. Just amazing.
There's one word to describe Diane, and that's an adventurer. I'm amazed. It's like, I don't know how she does it. But there is nothing that Diane is not interested in. And she wants to know about everything, and she does.
I have lots of dreams. It's something that is constantly evolving, and we try to make it a festival that's a platform for an exchange between directors, producers, designers, distributors. Film critics have masterclass, have roundtable discussions in addition to showing films, involve student competitions. I would like it to be my legacy. So if it becomes an association, it can go on much longer than me. And that's my aspirations.